Hello, folks. This is Samir from 21 Leaves, your host. And at 21 Leaves, we talk about how to craft a life you love. Our guest today is Kiran Telang. And Kiran is
Hi.
a financial planning advisor based out of Mumbai in India. And she's crafted a life for herself as a financial advisor. We went to MBA school together. And we're going to talk to Kiran about how she got started and also what gets people stuck and procrastinating when it comes to financial matters. So Kiran, welcome.
Thanks, Samir. It's such a pleasure to be here talking to you today. It's very unusual for me to be in a podcast with someone who's based out of the USA. So this is the first for me. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you. So Kiran, let's start with your journey and how you got started into this financial planning career.
All right. So right after my MBA, I got into banking, and banking is somewhere where I didn't really want to be, but somehow I ended up in banking. And I was in two banks before I quit. So banking was the usual stuff, branch banking, talking to customers, looking after operations, loading ATMs. That was very interesting. So that was something different that I did. Uh, while doing all this, somewhere at the back of the mind, I knew that I always, wanted to do something on my own, but I didn't know what. And I kept looking for answers. So I had this thing clear in my head that, okay, I want a work-life balance and I want to do something that I really enjoy and something that makes a difference to people. So all these factors were somewhere back of my mind, but I didn't really, come down to what do I want to do. And it so happened that I used to subscribe to a magazine called The Intelligent Investor, which now is called Outlook Money. It's an Indian magazine. So that magazine carried an article about certified financial planner as a career option. So the way they described it was, you get involved into people's finances, study what they are doing, and then you help them with their financial planning. And it covered a lot of things which I felt were important in every person's life. And I said, yeah, this is something that I would want to do. And that's when the seed was planted. So it actually took me about a year and a half to act on it. I quit my job and I did the CFP certification, and then I started on my own. So that's how the work in the financial planning arena really started.
And then you quit your job and you started your own
Yeah,
financial
so
planning.
I quit my job and then I started studying. So I finished my studies for the certification within a year, because then I was fully, giving my entire time to studies.
Okay.
So very, very focused studies. I passed all the examinations. And in the meantime, I'd already started practicing. So at that point in time, India did not have any advisory regulations, so it was very much an open market. So anybody could start off as an advisor. So I did know the basics, obviously being in banking. But this was a totally different ball game. So once I did the CFP certification and the financial planning bit came in, so it happened simultaneously, say over 1.5 years after I read this article. So I started in 2006. I had quit my job in 2005, so I took a while to actually start off.
So you were really committed. You just left your job and said, "This is now what I want to do." Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. So that article really made a difference. So it was, you don't really think that, reading something in a magazine can change your life so much.
Right.
But that really gave me the thing that, yes, this is what I want to do. And I was very happy. I am very happy doing what I'm doing. So it's a very satisfying career, so to say.
So when you got started, the initial after you got your certification, or even maybe before, how did you find your first set of customers?
Well, first set of customers would obviously be the natural market, family and friends. So some people whom I knew, who were investing. So I started some investments for them. And then those people actually, when they started talking to me, I described to them what is actually financial planning. So they said, okay, this seems interesting. I would like to go for it. And that's how they got, moving from investments to financial planning. And I created financial plans for a couple of people. And incidentally, they still happen to be my clients, my first few clients. So they're still around. So that's how I started. And then gradually, obviously, it was more of a referral business that came through. I did also a lot of media work. So there were a lot of articles and interviews that happened in the media. So all on I didn't pay anybody to do that. There was no PR involved in that. So it just happened that financial planning as a profession also had just been introduced in India. So not many people knew about it. So while trying to grow the profession as such, I got into writing in media, and that's where I got a lot of inquiries from, and then people started referring out. So people started referring within their families. They started referring friends who they thought would need this kind of service, and that's how the business grew over the years.
Great, great. So let's talk about if I were to come to you and seek advice to say, I want to do some financial planning for my life, career, business, whatever. What is the process and what's the process you go through to like onboard a client?
See, onboarding a client first starts with a conversation where we try to figure out whether we are on the same page in terms of understanding what we have to offer and what the client is looking for. So very often it happens that clients are looking for a specific thing which we don't offer, or they want to work in a specific way. I'll give you an example. I get clients who want to, maybe give me a chunk of money and say that, okay, we'll see how you perform within a year, and
Okay.
then we will get the entire, money to you. But that doesn't work with me. So the financial planning way is different, or somebody would just be looking at, maybe doing specific trades like some momentum investing in stocks or things like that. So we don't really do that kind of thing. We are more into long-term association, create a financial plan and then work on that and get everything sorted. So investment is a part of it, but it is not the entire financial planning bit. So first we have this conversation. We try to understand whether, we will be able to work together. And once we agree that, okay, this is a good, good fit, then we go ahead and sign the agreement. And then there is the usual steps of financial planning where we collect data from the client, what they have done so far. We discuss about goals. We discuss about dreams and aspirations. We usually, in a family, I mean, it's the couple who comes to us. So we insist that both the husband and the wife should come to us, because they are both, they have to be there, usually otherwise women tend to take a back seat and don't get involved in finances. So we have these discussions, we gather the data at the back end, then we start preparing the financial plan. We prepare a draft plan and send it to the clients. They go through it, and probably for a lot of them, it is the first time that they're seeing their financial life in one place. So they're able to get the sense of the entire thing rather than bits and pieces of what they've done so far. So once the draft plan is sent, we have a discussion as to whether I have understood correctly or there are any gaps, or would they want to change, things that we had discussed in our initial data gathering call or the goal setting process. So looking at that things sometimes change, and then we modify and finalize the plan. So once the plan is in place, that basically gives them a direction to where they want to go. And then we start following the path. But obviously life changes, things change. So, the financial plan is just the starting point. Whereas I would say financial planning is more like an ongoing navigation. So you change paths. There could be several paths which, can take you to your destination. So based on the situation, based on where your life takes you, you can actually make changes and, continue going in the direction that you're actually looking at. So that's how the entire process goes.
And you talked about set up a financial plan. Like very broadly, what are the big components of that plan?
Okay, so a financial plan always starts with goal setting. So see, it's like if you want to reach a place, you start like if you put it in a map. So you start from place A, you want to go to place B, right? So you put that starting point and the end point. And then there are several routes that open up for you. So what is the route that you would like to take? So we start with goal planning. Then there is analysis of the data. So what vehicles have you used so far to reach where you are? Do you need a change of vehicle? So there could be things which are not right, which are not taking you in that direction where you want to go. So then there is that analysis and then elimination of things that are not fitting the entire, plan. And then we bring in things which are missing. So all those components are there. So these components could include, risk management things. So we start with goal setting, then there is risk management. So basically creating of your emergency fund, where that can help you in any kind of situation which is unforeseen. We set up all the insurances that are required, your health insurance, your life insurance, accident, critical
Mhm.
illness, all those kind of things. So what is the need if there is a gap? Then we look at all the investments that are there. What else is required? What is the amount that you need to invest? If there is a resource shortfall, how do you meet up that? So there is a cash flow analysis which we do.
Okay.
So actually, help people figure out whether they are saving enough, what is their capacity, what is the possibility of, creating wealth. All those things are done. And then there is a plan drafted as to the actionables. So what do you actually go and do? So once you know the picture, then you draft the actionables, and then the implementation part happens. For a lot of people, we give basic advice on estate planning as well, in terms of, what is available in India, wills nomination, whether there is a requirement of a trust. And then based on specific requirements, we do the will and estate planning for individuals also. So that is like end to end. So what you want today, where you are, where you want to go, and after you, what happens. So the entire gamut is covered. And then we keep a review going on every year,
Okay.
so that you are in the correct direction all the time.
When it comes to like risk management, what have you found when you work with clients over the years? How do people like look at risk? How do you advise people about risk?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So see, for most people, they want no risk and highest returns.
Yeah.
So that is a myth that does not exist. So there are always risks. So we try to explain to them, about how risks can pan out and how they can impact what we are planning. So we have a psychometric risk profiling tool which we use, so which throws up some options, and it throws up what they are actually thinking, and if they choose a particular portfolio, how would it have performed in the hindsight if you look at, back data. So more often than not, there is a pairing of expectations that happens at that stage. So if you're expecting X kind of return, probably with the kind of portfolio that you're choosing, you might not get that return. So you pare down your expectations. Also, there is among couple, there could be wide differences. So couples can have very differing risk profiles, whereas they have common goals. So how do you bring them on the same page? How do you manage those things so that both of them can sleep well and you don't compromise on achievement of the goals also? So in terms of these risks, so we work on three parameters. One is the risk tolerance, which is thrown up by the risk profiling that we do. Second is the risk capacity, right? So how much risk can they actually afford to take at whatever stage they are in their life? And third is the risk required. So risk required is that if they have a certain goal set up for themselves, they will need to take some amount of risk to reach that goal. Right. So if they are very conservative and their goals are, pretty big, then how do they actually reach there? So they will have to adjust the risk tolerance that they have. Basically, they cannot stay conservative, otherwise they'll have to compromise on their goal. So based on these three parameters, we try to, figure out what will be the most suitable portfolio for them.
And then, maybe this question is, maybe if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. But what's the biggest audacious goal you've come across that someone has, I want to achieve this?
So, you see, actually speaking, in the financial plan, the retirement goal is pretty huge. So the kind of, aspirations and lifestyle people have today for a youngster in India, maybe a 22-year-old who's just starting off in a job, the goal could be as big as 25 crores. So, in your first job, a 25 crore kind of corpus building is by itself quite huge. But I have seen people who come up with random numbers that they want to achieve. It could be like, okay, I just want to reach 10 crores. And they are anyways going to reach there because, because of certain things that we have put in place, but they are in such a hurry to reach there that, it becomes pretty audacious, that they're very, very, very energetic about the entire thing and they want to reach there fast. So goals are, retirement goal, I think, is pretty big for most people.
When it comes to financial planning, many people either put it off or they, procrastinate. They don't put the things, even if sometimes we give a plan, I'm sure people don't implement the plan. What have you found that propels people into action?
See, honestly speaking, in my case, I think this is still work in progress. I'm still figuring out, how to nudge people into action, because people will not really act on the plan that is given to them unless they feel that it is important. It has to be from their side. We know that it is important, but for them, it has to be important. So there are several techniques which I use. I have not found one short way of, pulling them
Yeah.
into action. So sometimes I try to figure out what is it that is stopping them from actually doing it.
Mm,
So a lot of times it could just be procrastination.
mm,
Sometimes there could be some fear lurking at the back of the mind that if I get into this and if I get stuck, then what?
mm,
Or if you commit yourself to saving a certain amount and then you're not able to do it,
mm,
or if you are committing and putting that amount of saving on a month on month basis, how is it going to impact the lifestyle?
mm.
So there are these kind of fears which are lurking behind. So I try to address those. So maybe start small and then gradually see how you feel about it and then move to it. There could also be other things in terms of, we were talking about risk, right? So
Mm,
people could be uh, thinking of something, and actually what we are doing in the plan could be very different. So a lot
Okay.
of times, if there is that difference where the risk required is higher, and we have asked them to do something away from what they are most comfortable with,
Mm,
they might not want to,
right.
actually put it into action. So there are various things I'm still learning. So behavioral finance is a very interesting area. So I think it's a work in progress for me yet.
And I'm sure when you work with, couples, there must be very interesting conversations, and maybe you may even have to do some counseling with them.
Yeah, it does happen. So yeah, a lot of times, I mean, there are a lot of issues which the couples have never discussed among
Mm,
themselves.
correct.
Uh, I had a couple where the wife did not know how much the husband is earning. So that is the first time that conversation happened at that point in time.
Uh,
And there could be usually, differences come up in terms of major goals, as in how do you want to bring up your children in terms of where do you want to educate them. So sometimes one parent wants to send the child abroad for higher studies, the other parent is not willing. Same thing with, sending them to boarding school. So
mm,
one parent would agree, other parent wouldn't agree. So those are the differences that come through, and that definitely impacts the way the implementation of the plan is going to happen. Because if you don't have a full buy-in from both the partners, it becomes difficult to move ahead. So yes, a lot of counseling happens in these sessions.
Great. So let's maybe talk about health. And health is not usually connected with financial planning, but if you plan for finances, health is another thing that you have to really pay attention to in your life. And then, do you see any similarities between long-term planning and between health and financial planning that you do?
I think there are a lot of similarities. It's a very interesting question. So if we come to it, both financial planning and maintaining your health are pretty simple things.
Mhm.
In health, we always say there are three things: eat well, sleep well, and exercise, right? So if you just do these three things in moderation
Mhm.
and on a continuous basis, you will stay healthy. Unless, of course, there are things like,
Right.
COVID and things that come in which are beyond your control. Similarly, in financial planning, as long as you are spending less than what you earn, you're investing it wisely, and you're doing it on a consistent basis, you will
Mm,
create wealth,
mm,
right? So it is as simple as that. But to get those things in place, it's a whole big drama that happens, and you
correct,
have to do so many things to actually make that that end result uh,
correct.
to happen properly. I think there are these lot of similarities. Again, a lot of people in terms of health also, people kind of don't want to use external help. They don't want instructors,
Correct.
they don't want
Correct.
dietitians, they are mostly DIY. So
Mm,
likewise in financial planning, there is so much about money and about finance and various products that is available today. So there is a lot of information available, so people try to do it themselves, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
mm.
If they choose the wrong person to follow or the wrong advice, then they might end up losing time and money. So then it becomes a little difficult to get back on track. So I think there are similarities in both fields, the pros and cons both.
Yeah, no, but I think you pointed out a good thing, which is, asking for external help, whether it's a personal trainer, dietitian, or in your case, a financial planner. Sometimes people are hesitant to do it. They think they can do
Correct.
it all by themselves by Googling things, and it's
True,
not
true. I
sometimes that
totally agree.
easy. Right?
That's right. That's right.
So, Kiran, I have a final question, but before that, is there anything else that you would like to mention before sort of we end and I ask the final question to you?
I
Anything that
think we
you
have
would like to
discussed.
convey to the audience, anything that we've not discussed, you think we should have, spoken about?
I think we've discussed quite a bit. I would always say that, when we talk about financial planning, it's always better to get a financial plan done, at least get your health check in place. So
Mhm.
like you go for your annual health checks, at least once in a while, go to a financial planner, get your, things checked. So a lot of times people think that they're all right. They don't even know there is a problem.
Mhm.
And by the time they actually arrive for help, it's too late or it's too expensive to make the corrections. So when you have your bigger life decisions happening, I would suggest that it would be a good idea to spend a little bit on, taking professional financial advice. So that can save you a lot of money in the long run, and you will be at peace that you're on the correct path.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So, Kiran, this last question, I have actually taken it from another podcast, which I really like. It's Patrick O'Shaughnessy's Invest Like the Best podcast. And I really like this question, and that's why I ask it. Is what's the kindest thing someone has done for you?
That's really interesting. So I think life itself is a series of kindnesses, small things done on a daily basis. So it can't be just one thing that you can point at.
Mhm.
Small things like, in my case, my family supporting me all the way through. So whenever I have these, discussions or travel related to work, there is always family support without which things will not move. Unless you are kind of settled in the house, you really can't take on other responsibilities. There are colleagues in the industry who are so helping and so kind. So whenever there is any problem, so in entrepreneurship, what happens is it's a very lonely kind of profession. So when you're an entrepreneur, you need all kinds of help at different points in time. So the community has been very, very helpful and very kind in lending help whenever it was asked for. So I think that has been a running kind of a thing. So all these kindnesses, I think, add up and make it a very nice place to be.
Wonderful, wonderful. Kiran, we will put your contact and how to get in touch with you in the show notes. And thank you so much for coming on. And it's been lovely talking to you after so many years. I think after college we had not connected, but thank you so
Right.
much.
Thanks, Samir. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I hope we do more such sessions in the future. Thank you so much for having me over.
Thanks, Kiran.